You saw my last video, and I was not going to let all the work I did go to waste. So here are the rest of the Stardom roster listed. Won't be as detailed, but for some of the higher ranked ones I plan on going into a little bit more detail than the lower ranked ones, on why they placed and where they did like in my previous video. So here we go, the bottom 12 overall wrestlers in Stardom. 22 to 18. Not surprisingly, the bottom 5 are the rookies or young girls. Number 22 is Ruka with 23 points. Number 21 is Hina with 28 points. Number 20 is Rina with 29 points. Number 19 is Hanan with 32 points. Number 18 is Leo Onozaki with 37 points. When it comes to wrestling ability, no one really has anything special, a bunch of 1s and 2s. They're young and new, and that shouldn't be a surprise. The only thing I would like to point out is that I decided to give Leo a 3 in striking because her improvement has really been amazing. Her strikes are looking a lot more stiff and fast-paced. For charisma, there isn't much to say, as everyone here did pretty good for their age and experience levels. The only standout stats are Rina and Hina's appearance. Rina achieved a 5, as I believe she is very cute, like watching an adorable puppy run around wrestling with other puppies. Hina, on the other hand, has a very great wrestling look. That's why I gave her an 8. Her height, body frame, and outfit are perfect for wrestling in my opinion. She definitely has an advantage over everyone else in this part when it comes to appearance. For presence, not a single one of them have any right now. They are either like Leo, who doesn't feel like a star, or Hina, who is a 13-year-old girl and incredibly obvious. None of them are good at bumping or selling right now. This is most likely an experience issue, and that's it. I'm sure everyone will get better as time went on. Leo needs to become less stiff to get better stats. Like my dad says, she drops like a rock. Same thing with storytelling. All of them are too inexperienced and not prodigies for them to get anything other than mostly low scores. They're just a bunch of kids without the natural ability of a Zumi and Starlight Kid. Nothing wrong with that, and I personally really look forward to their progress. Number 17. Number 17 is Saya Ida, which is also not a surprise, as she is the best out of the rookies. She scored a total of 61 out of 170 points. I gotta be honest, lately I have been not feeling Saya very much. She is very talented, but I feel she has stagnated. You don't need to be adding new moves all the time, but a new move every now and then would be appreciated. Even if she wasn't to add a new move, her matches have started getting very repetitious. Dropkick, great bumping. Dropkick, good selling. Dropkick, itabashi, get pinned. Hopefully she starts doing something new, whether that's new moves or new sequences, either would be fine. For her wrestling ability, she scored 2 in technical, 4 in power, 3 in speed, 1 in flashiness, 4 in smoothness, and 3 in striking for a total of 17 out of 60 points. She is still pretty new to wrestling, so there is a lot of time for her to improve more. Her abilities from the get-go were really good. When she started out, you got reminded of Azumi or Momo, someone who seemed to have a lot of potential from the get-go. Maybe not the best rookies, but you could see there was something there that could be molded. Saya has that, but she really hasn't improved since her debut. I think she started too good, but not good enough to coast on that while they work behind the scenes like Utami. In charisma, she scored 2 in promos, 5 in facial expressions, 3 in body language, and 7 in appearance for a total of 170 out of 40 points. She isn't that great at the charisma aspect yet, but like before, this is purely an experience thing. She will get better, and she could be great if she really works for it. The thing she really shines in this category, though, is that her appearance is great. Her height and her frame are so complementary. Nothing about her appearance is lacking right now, except maybe her outfit. Her outfit is really good, but I believe she could do better. That's the only thing holding her back in appearance right now. Saya scored a 3 in presence. I just don't feel too much of a presence from her right now. The fact that she can stand next to Saki Kashima and feel in the background should tell you that her presence is blocked. In bumping and selling, she scores 7 in bump intensity, 5 in bump complexity, and 6 in selling authenticity for a total of 18 out of 30 points. Saya has always been a great bumper. Right out of the gate, she was seen as something of a bumping prodigy. That's how I felt anyway. A trend you see amongst the rookies nowadays in Stardom is that they are usually pretty good at one thing right from the start. Saya's was bumping. She just got it. Working under Mayu now, she will probably get much better. In storytelling, she scored 2 on in-ring storytelling, 2 in plot lines, and 2 in rivalries, for a total of 6 out of 30 points. Not much to talk about here, she just doesn't have a lot of experience doing this stuff. None of the rookies do, and shouldn't be held against them. Before I move on to the next person, I just want to say something about Saya that I have been thinking about for some time and need to say. I don't think Saya being in Stars is good for her. If you look at Stars, they are a bunch of super talented, attractive wrestlers. People who get wrestling. I think Saya needs someone to kick her into greatness, which is why I wanted her in Queen's Quest originally. I don't know, hopefully I'm wrong, but I really think she's progressing as slowly as she is because of her type of mentors in Stars. Number 16. Number 16 is Natsuko Tora with 70 out of 170 points. This might come as a surprise because I have been adamant that Natsuko was actually a really good wrestler. What you guys should have learned from the first video with Momo is that I tried to be unbiased as much as possible. I feel like she has actually diminished a bit since joining Orotai, but I truly believe that she is in a transition period. One day she will get rid of the jumpsuit and start being awesome again. In wrestling ability, she scored 1 in technical, 6 in power, 2 in speed, 3 in flashiness, 2 in smoothness, and 4 in striking for a total of 18 out of 60 points. Natsuko suffers the same fate as Jungle did here, being primarily a power wrestler. The only difference is that she isn't as good as Jungle, so she doesn't get the stat boost from what she is really great at. Her highest score in power isn't really that great, and that's because her power moves just don't seem as impactful as they could be. Her saving grace was her F crash, her finisher is awesome. In charisma, she scored 5 in promos, 7 in facial expressions, 3 in body language, and 3 in appearance for a total of 18 out of 40 points. Natsuko is pretty interesting when it comes to charisma, because she is really good and kind of bad at the same time. Her promos are decent, but her facial expressions are top notch. When she is angry, disappointed, or happy, she can clearly express that in her face. The problem is that her body language does not match most of the time. She has moments where she shines, but more times than not, it's her facial expressions guiding her and her body language is subpar. Right now I gave her a 3 in appearance because her look just isn't interesting. I have a theory that she is getting in shape right now and her look is to hide that. One day she'll remove the jumpsuit and debut a new outfit and more in-shape body. For presence, Natsuko scored a 4 out of 10. She isn't a top star and never will be. Is that a bad thing? No. Some of you might remember back towards the end of John, Natsuko was actually one of my favorite wrestlers. She is entertaining, but she is always going to be backup to the real stars. In bumping and selling, she scored 3 in bump intensity, 2 in bump complexity, and 4 in selling authenticity for a total of 9 out of 30. Natsuko is an okay bumper and seller. She isn't anything I would call special, and I believe this is one of her biggest weaknesses. For her ability and placement on the card, I believe it's perfectly fine though. She does enough. The most important thing in my opinion is that she sells for her opponents, which she doesn't do super well, but she still does. A weakness doesn't mean irredeemable, it just means something they aren't that good at and could potentially get better at. In storytelling, she scored 5 on in-ring storytelling, 8 in plotlines, and 8 in rivalries for a total of 21 out of 30 points. What Natsuko really shines at is allowing a feud or story to be great. Her 2 biggest feuds and storylines were her rivalry against Tam, then her fallout with Jungle Kyona. They are 2 amazing stories of just everything perfectly lining up. Why she got good scores but not too great was because her 2 biggest claims to fame relied heavily on the other person. In her feud with Tam, she had Tam to work with, who, as you know, I consider criminally underrated. In her fallout with Jungle, she is playing the villain against one of the most sympathetic wrestlers in the promotion. She did her part, but her counterparts were what truly escalated those feuds to greatness. 15. Number 15 is Utami Hayashishita, which is pretty great for how little she has wrestled. She scored a total of 86 out of 170 points. The big rookie has shown that she was good enough to hold the title of Super Rookie. In wrestling ability, she scored 2 in technical, 10 in power, 2 in speed, 2 in flashiness, 2 in smoothness, and 5 in striking for a total of 23 out of 60 points. She's really great at what she does best, being sound in the ring and being a great power wrestler. These scores might seem too low, but she's just too green for her to get great scores right now. She has her moments, of course, but the moments she really shines is when she's doing something power related, lifting her opponents and dominating them. In charisma, Utami scored 3 in promos, 3 in facial expressions, 4 in body language, and 9 in appearance for a total of 19 out of 40 points. Utami is incredibly bland and awkward. She's hesitant on the mic, her face is not expressive most of the time, and her body language makes her seem like she was just caught in an embarrassing situation most of the time. Who cares though? She has only been wrestling for a year. Momo still to this day seems awkward sometimes, and she's been wrestling much, much longer. What's important to note though is that her appearance is practically perfect. She is tall by Japanese women's standards, she is solidly built, giving her a strong feel. Her outfit from the very beginning has been very well made and looked great. The one thing she doesn't need to work on is her appearance. In presence, Utami scored 8 out of 10 points. When you look at Utami, when she isn't doing anything, she just looks like a star. She radiates greatness. It's something that everyone in Queen's Quest really succeed at, making themselves seem grander than life. Like some goddess standing before her subjects, Utami really has that top star feel. In bump and selling, she scored 4 in bump intensity, 2 in bump complexity, and 7 in selling authenticity for a total of 13 out of 30 points. Utami is not known for her bumping ability. She is not good, but nothing too heinous. She just isn't anything worth talking about. While she is a mediocre bumper, her selling is actually pretty good. There are many times where she would sell a move or sequence in a way that improves it a lot. In storytelling, she scored 7 on in-ring storytelling, 5 in plotlines, and 8 in rivalries for a total of 20 out of 30 points. Utami can really help a story along. She has the ability to give stakes to anything she does, whether it's a title match, wrestling jungle, or a tournament. She always makes it seem very important. You care about her quest at the time. Her battle with Jungle since her debut is nothing short of masterful. Seriously, when this year's 5-star Grand Prix was announced and you saw that Jungle and Utami were in the same bracket, weren't you excited? I know I was. I saw those two names and thought, that's going to be an absolute banger, especially since Jungle has the momentum in this feud right now. 14. Number 14 is Saki Kashima, who scored 91 out of 170 points. Saki is one of those wrestlers who is very talented in the ring, but incredibly bland. Watching her wrestle is always awesome and entertaining, but she just doesn't have much of a personality. In wrestling ability, she scored 9 in technical, 2 in power, 9 in speed, 9 in flashiness, 7 in smoothness, and 4 in striking for a total of 40 out of 60 points. Like I said before, wrestling ability is not something Saki has to worry about. She is a marvel at it. In the beginning, I didn't quite notice, but as time went on, I got really confused. How is she this good and not more of a star? She is incredibly unique in the ring, having a wrestling style that I just haven't seen anywhere else. The way I describe it is chaotic precision. In charisma, she scored 5 in promos, 4 in facial expressions, 3 in body language, and 9 in appearance for a total of 21 out of 40 points. The reason she never stood out is primarily because she just doesn't have a personality. Whether alone or with someone else, there really isn't anything other than her appearance that stands out. She's just kind of there. That's why she scored low on most of the categories. Her only saving grace is that she is a very beautiful woman, and her outfit looks really cool. She has recently started showing a little bit more personality, but not enough to really count towards raising her scores any. In presence, she scored 2 out of 10, and this should be of no surprise. Saki is barely there. Anytime outside actually wrestling, she is a background character, a low-definition NPC. She has mastered the skill of making it seem like she isn't there at all. In bumping and selling, she scored 4 in bump intensity, 4 in bump complexity, and 5 in selling authenticity for a total of 13 out of 30 points. Saki is an average bumper and seller. There really isn't anything else to say about it. She just does her job in this department. It doesn't hinder the match in any way, but doesn't elevate it either. In storytelling, she scored 6 on in-ring storytelling, 3 in plot lines, and 6 in rivalries for a total of 15 out of 30 points. Saki just doesn't shine very much outside of putting on an impressive wrestling match. Her one rivalry since her return is with Sumire, and the whole thing was basically carried by Sumire. Saki definitely helped, but she just isn't known for being the reason anything happening is interesting. To be honest, I actually forgot to write her part in the script, and didn't even notice until I was editing and realized I went from 15 to 13. Now I have to record her part all separate. With all that said, I actually am a big fan of Saki, and I love watching her wrestle. That's just it though. Just wrestling. 13. Number 13 is Konami, who scored 91 out of 170 points. Konami is an amazing wrestler. She is so good in the ring that it kind of became a problem for her though. In wrestling ability, she scored 10 in technical, 2 in power, 5 in speed, 6 in flashiness, 9 in smoothness, and 10 in striking for a total of 42 out of 60 points. Konami is one of the best in Stardom when considering in-ring ability alone. She constantly outshines anyone in the ring, making them look like amateurs unless against truly great opponents like Kagetsu. Trained by the legendary Kana, and it shows. Konami can effortlessly reverse you or put you into a submission from any angle. There aren't too many people who I would believe could out-wrestle Konami in a technical bout. In charisma, she scored 5 in promos, 5 in facial expressions, 6 in body language, and 7 in appearance for a total of 23 out of 40 points. While Konami is really great in the ring, her charisma is seriously lacking. Very bland for the most part. She has gotten better lately with the help of her TCS teammates, but she still has a long way to go before she will be outshining anyone else. It's not even that her charisma is bad, it's just non-existent for the most part, so I gave her average scores. The only good thing about her charisma is her appearance, which does look very cool. In presence, she scored 3 out of 10, which shouldn't surprise anyone after what I just said about her charisma. Her time in Stardom has been a series of not standing out. She kind of just went with the flow and didn't ever try to stand out in any way. Always just attaching herself to someone and letting them be the star while she just kicked people in between. In bumping and selling, she scored 3 in bump intensity, 2 in bump complexity, and 6 in selling authenticity for a total of 11 out of 30 points. Konami's bumping is not very good, but not horrendous. She doesn't go above and beyond, and honestly, that's okay. She makes up for her lack of bumping with selling for her opponents when needed. She could work on her selling as well, but I don't believe she really needs to. She's at a good place for her right now. In storytelling, she scored 6 on in-ring storytelling, 3 in plotlines, and 3 in rivalries, for a total of 12 out of 30 points. She really hasn't done anything of note in Stardom since coming there. Like I said before, she always just latched onto someone else and helped them through their stories. She never really elevated or helped anything she was a part of. For in-ring storytelling, I decided to give her a 6 since she doesn't really tell a story for the most part in the ring. She can put on some really amazing technical bouts, but no story. So I decided the technical parts alone were enough to give her a 6, but the lack of anything involving her storyline-wise really stopped it from being higher. 12. Number 12 is B. Priestley with 99 out of 170 points. B really improved over the last 2 years, going from a huge downside that was the foreign wrestlers in Stardom to being one of the best to be there regularly. She has really transitioned into a great wrestler, able to put on some really awesome matches since her winning the red belt. In wrestling ability, she scored 5 in technical, 6 in power, 5 in speed, 5 in flashiness, 4 in smoothness, and 8 in striking for a total of 33 out of 60 points. At face value, looking at these numbers, you probably think they are very bad. I disagree, because being about average at everything is actually really hard to do in a sport that encourages specialization. She hasn't reached her peak yet either, so these numbers could swell as the years go on. Right now, she has one of the most hard-hitting styles in Stardom, always seeming to make her moves look more devastating than her opponents. I believe in time she could very well be considered one of the greats if she keeps working at it. In charisma, she scored 7 in promos, 7 in facial expressions, 6 in body language, and 8 in appearance for a total of 28 out of 40 points. B is very charismatic in my opinion. She also seems to be going for a character that no one else in Stardom is trying to go for. She wants to be on top, and she wants you to know that you are looking at the top. The reason she didn't score higher in most categories is that a lot of the time I feel like she comes off as trying too hard to be the badass girl. This could just be that she is speaking my native language, so all the little nuances and behaviors are more apparent than when watching a Japanese promo. She mostly succeeds in what she's going for, but the times when it falls flat to me keeps her from scoring higher. The one thing in charisma that B is great at is appearance. She has a great wrestling appearance. She is tall, toned, and her style complements her bad girl image. The problem though is that because sometimes her acting abilities don't fully capture that feeling, Her appearance seems out of place sometimes. In presence, she scored 7 out of 10 points. She has the aura of a top star, but she isn't quite top star in my opinion. Remember, this score is enough to be on top and to feel justified, but a lot of the time watching B feels like watching someone who is alone in a foreign country and doesn't know quite what to do a lot. That's because that's true, she is in a foreign country, and I can't even imagine the pressures and anxiety of trying to adapt to an entirely different culture. I don't know if this number for her could ever change, but it's very possible as time goes on and she becomes more used to being surrounded by people who don't speak her language that the score could rise. In bumping and selling, she scored 6 in bump intensity, 4 in bump complexity, and 7 in selling authenticity for a total of 17 out of 30 points. B is a good bumper and seller. The problem though is that her style of selling is too Western for me to score higher. Of course, this is all opinion, but I feel like the Western style of selling is a little too hokey sometimes, and that can really hurt the match. She scored high because she's really good at making sure the match makes sense, which is honestly the most important element. In storytelling, she scored 5 on in-ring storytelling, 4 in plotlines, and 5 in rivalries for a total of 14 out of 30 points. We can probably chalk this up to her inexperience because she is actually much newer to wrestling than most people think. She has only been wrestling for a couple of years, and I believe alongside wrestling ability, this category is probably the most experience-based stat. Of course, there are naturals, but for the average person, I believe this is one of those things that you need time and experience with to really get great at it. Right now, I just consider her average. She doesn't really hurt anything she's involved with, but she really doesn't elevate it either. 11. Number 11 is Hana Camera for a total overall score of 106 out of 170 points. I know when I made the first video, Hana Camera not being in the top 10 really confused some people, and now you see why she wasn't. She only scored 1 point lower than Starlight Kid. In wrestling ability, she scored 4 in technical, 7 in power, 3 in speed, 6 in flashiness, 4 in smoothness, and 5 in striking, for a total of 29 out of 60 points. I have been told that she isn't showing her full wrestling capabilities in Stardom, but I don't see that as a good excuse. Even if she was better than what she is portraying, what's the end goal of pretending to be a worse wrestler than you really are? Take Kaori for example. She almost never gets to wrestle in big matches against the big names, but it was obvious that she was way more talented. That gets shown in her big matches when she gets one. Hana, on the other hand, never lowers or raises from her normal talent. I think for how long she has been wrestling, she's actually very impressive, but her wrestling ability is nothing to be wowed at. The most interesting thing about her wrestling ability is the fact that she is so deceptively strong. There are many times she does acts of strength that I just didn't see her being able to do. Hana has great potential though, and I can see her just getting better and better as time goes on. She has definitely not hit her plateau yet. In charisma, she scored 9 in promos, 9 in facial expressions, 10 in body language, and 10 in appearance for a total of 38 out of 40 points. This should be of no surprise to people. Hana is pretty much a genius at charisma. I'm not even just talking about her appearance, which, as we all know, is top tier. She is an incredibly hot woman. One of the biggest criticisms I see of Hana Camera is that all she is her good looks, which couldn't be farther from the truth. She is a good wrestler, but her charisma is more than how hot she is. Hana knows how to draw an audience in with the way she talks, or the way she moves. She isn't relying on her hotness, she is using it to her advantage to elevate herself. It's the same as someone using their natural wrestling ability to elevate their status. You use what you got. When she speaks, people listen, because we are interested in what she will say. She isn't just looks. In presence, she scored 9 out of 10 points. This was a tough one to put because she has a very high presence. This was one of the few times that I placed a score based on what I gave other people. While her presence was amazing, I didn't see her having a bigger aura than Momo or Miyagi. I decided to give her a 9 instead of 10 because I believe she still has room to improve and could one day elevate herself to a 10. Think about it this way. If tomorrow Stardom said, Hana is the new ace or face of the company, would you just accept it or would you wonder why it wasn't someone else? I feel like there are a couple people who are above her in this element, so for right now she gets a 9. In bumping and selling, she scored a 4 in bump intensity, 3 in bump complexity, and 6 in selling authenticity for a total of 13 out of 30 points. Hana is not a good bumper, and I don't see that changing anytime soon. The important thing though is that she is not at a bad level though. While not good, she isn't negatively impacting the matches because of her bumping ability. Her real saving grace though is that she has really great moments every now and then that really add to the match. Her taking kicks to the head are probably her most brightest spots when it comes to this category. I think there is a lot she could improve on, but she doesn't really need to become a better wrestler. While bumping and selling is important, after a certain level it stops affecting your ceiling. In storytelling, she scored a 5 on in-ring storytelling, 6 in plotlines, and 6 in rivalries for a total of 17 out of 30 points. I believe this category's scores could very well not be Hana's fault, but at a certain point she is responsible. All her rivalries and storylines fall so flat. They start so great, and then they just fizzle out into nothing, to the point that you question if it was even something they were trying to start in the first place. This could very well just be her starting things, but then the booking changes the plans. But look at her big storylines and they all just go nowhere or are really disappointing. Her coming back from Mexico and turning on Odotai was completely ruined by her terrible character change. Her being mad at Tam for leaving Odotai lasted like a couple matches and then just wasn't mentioned again. Her losing her mind a bit after that stayed completely on Twitter and even then didn't really make too much sense structurally. Even her creating a new team, she wasn't really the main reason that got so good, but how the others reacted and adjusted to being a part of the new team. I think Hana's problem is that she is really great at starting ideas, but then either doesn't have the backing from Stardom or the ability to pull it off. So there you go, the rest of Stardom ranked. This has been really fun trying to put numbers to certain wrestlers. The thing about Stardom right now is that they're just filled with talent. Pretty much everyone outside of the rookies and underage girls are very talented. Everyone has their own greatness they bring to the table. Honestly, everyone signed to Stardom right now are great and I love watching every single one of them. The new girl, Saya Kamatani, looks to be very promising and I could see her above most of the rookies right now, but it's too early for me to have enough data to place her. The biggest thing I took from the first list is that a lot of people would have placed Hana much higher, and that's perfectly valid. That's the great thing about wrestling is that anything you love, you most likely can find a wrestler that perfectly matches your preferences. With all said and done, trying to rank these Stardom wrestlers based on overall ability is pointless, because when we connect with a wrestler, it's not us saying that that wrestler is the best overall, it's us finding someone who does something that in our eyes was made for us. When I watch Momo, I see her as the best in the world. Is she the best? Not even close. But in our own personal worlds, anyone can be on top.